There we have it.
Infidel defilers shall all drown in lakes of blood.
Hello and good morning to the USA and good afternoon to UK and European viewers. I'm doing my usual weekly slot of putting together an adventure which I'm writing online, and you can sort of look over my shoulder while I do that. And this week I've got some exciting news that my new Cthulhu alphabet arrived from Goodman Games, which I'd ordered. Managed to get it in Europe. It's not always that easy to buy these over here in the UK, but found one on eBay brand new, so fantastic. And it's got some great content, so I'm hoping to mix it into everything I'm doing today in terms of being able to use it to create some monsters and bits and pieces in the setting that I'm making. And of course the other three books that I'm using are the normal Dungeon Alphabet, which by Michael Curtis. Of course they're all sort of Michael Curtis in a way. The Cthulhu Alphabet, he's obviously worked with others, but it's a Michael Curtis book again. And then the Monster Alphabet too, which is a Joe Bittman and Michael Curtis combination. And then finally I also use the main Dungeon Crawl Classics book at the same time to fire up some content when I need it. So I've been a little bit more organised this week, actually, because I've actually put the names of the sections in there and pre-browsed them. So shocked myself by doing some organisation instead of just diving into it and then doing the classic thing where I ended up opening up a page and then going, where the hell am I? And flipping through for half an hour, which doesn't make great viewing, does it, if you're just watching someone flip through a book, unless there's good content in there, which of course there is in some of these. So what am I doing? I'll do the intro side of things again, just so you can see how I'm approaching things. So what I do is I switch over, and I have before me, when I press the right button here, is a Raspberry Pi computer that's sat over just underneath here, and I run all of my applications on there to help create content and adventure writing. So I'll tell you what I'm using when I flip over there now. And here we go, down to the Raspberry Pi. It's like a little single board computer running Linux, so it's the sort of smallest size thing you can get. So here we have it. This is my desktop on the Raspberry Pi. I'm running, as I said, I'm running a version of Linux on here, which is quite easy to set up on these little Raspberry Pi computers, and it's just convenient for me to use all of my tools in one place. So in terms of the tools for doing the job, I've been using One Page Dungeon on waterbu.itch.io, which is a website which has loads of little applications and bits and pieces which are useful for dungeon masters and anybody doing adventure prep. In this instance, what I do is I randomly generate, because you can just hit enter on this and it keeps randomly generating a new, I get the button and press it. There you go, it just randomly generates a new dungeon every time, and I've been copying those out when I've wanted a new position in my adventure that I'm writing. And this is the adventure. It's called Beneath the Valley of the Ultranolls. And
You will cut off your legs, your arms,
just organising myself a little bit.
Head.
And basically I decided to write this using sort of 100% diving into these books, the selection from Goodman Games, with my own ideas thrown in as well for good measure. So that's how I've been evolving it. And I write this in Google Docs, so this is just a template as I knock it together as an adventure. So I'm roughing it out in here rather than doing, this isn't like a full layout for production. Then I use other tools as well. I've got a sheet that I use in Google Sheets again, and this is just a huge stack of names on a table, which if I run out of ideas for a name, I might dive into there and roll on the table. And I've got several pages of different names and words that I may wish to use to drag into it. So let's see where we are. Let's see if I can do a sort of adventure synopsis. So as an intro before we dive into it this week and do another section. So I've zoomed in here as big as I can to the map, but I probably just need to make it a bit smaller actually so that we can see it. No, that is too big as well. And then I think it's a reasonably good idea to work from the map to, and I'm going to have to do a fit, that's way too big. There we go. So that's the map, and basically the heart of this adventure is around an idea I had where there's a main ravine going through the centre, and there's a giant black cube of obsidian in the centre of that rock. And within there, as I've slowly built out the adventure over 6 or so sessions like this, is a dying goddess called Idenea. It's like a goddess between that helps people between the current life and the afterlife, like a goddess of the gateway to the underworld. But she's dying. She's probably been there, I think, I haven't locked it in yet, but probably been there around about 1,000 years. And this rock is an unnatural feature in the landscape. Everything else around here is kind of your classic sort of reddish and desert sandstone sort of colour in terms of the ravine, but it's got a massive great giant rock in there. There's a village beside there which is Cliff's End, and that's potentially a good starting point for adventurers that discover a few strange things going on, because she's in the final throes of dying, so lots of strange energies and magics are abound around the area as this happens. And the adventurers are planning to sort of go into that cube and deal with the issues in there, which is what I've been filling up in the other Google Doc there. We've got Copenhagen at the north, which is a dwarven stronghold, and the Howling Tower, where I've got a wizard in there, and I haven't detailed that out yet. I have done nearly 2 levels of the dungeon in the Oblex in the document, and last week I was doing a barrow in here, so next to Cliff's End, with the theme being the fact that this barrow here, many of these standing stones were made centuries ago by using rock from the Oblex over here, and this Oblex was transported here somehow by great magics or something or other. I haven't actually detailed that yet either, but that's appeared there over 1,000 years ago, and it created a stir obviously with the early settlers in this area, and they used some of the rock to make their standing stones. And of course the weird energies and stuff of the temple of this Oblex have started to sort of create issues in this area as well in terms of the undead. And they're all getting a bit uneasy at the moment because of the imminent death of Idenea. So adventure-wise, the characters can dive into exploring the Oblex in terms of finding out what's going on in there. They won't know about the goddess initially, but then they can try and maybe either keep her alive, they might make an enemy of her, they might make a patron of her. So there's various different approaches they could take with that, which I've been sort of detailing out as I go through the book there. So if I dive back to where I was last week, to make things clear in terms of where I was, and just give you an overview as well of the dungeon. So Cliff's End Barrows, this was what I was going through last week, which was saying that when the original founders of Cliff's End, I can zoom into this as well, actually, that's way too. I wonder if 200% will work. Yeah. So the original founders of Cliff's End settled the area, I've said 800 years ago. The Oblex structure was still new to the area, and the founders used sections of black rock to establish a set of standing stones near where they buried their dead, which is also near a swamp, marshy patch too. So the dead are now being restless because Idenea is near the end of her life as a goddess, and is triggering a level of unease amongst the spirits of the buried ancestors. The largest of the burial of the... So you will spot loads of grammar and other issues in there, which I will fix as I work through, which is the general intention. So I'll get my keyboard up so I can do a little bit of tapping away while I'm here. And dump my books there. So yeah, the larger the burial mounds belongs to the Rocksmith family, and the first of those buried was Ruin Rocksmith, who was recently awakened due to Idenea's impending doom. At night, a group of 6 huggers. So this was a creature I created last week, 2 weeks ago actually, as we were doing it, which I'll detail in a moment. And the rounded barrow has no visible entrance during daylight hours, however, in the local church. I haven't done a deity yet for Cliff's End, but I'll need to pick one. Probably just pick one out of the main Dungeon Crawl Classics book, is a dusty old ritual book which, when read, will give a player a nighttime dream vision of a stone entrance archway in the side of the barrow. They must follow the route to the entrance on the same night they have the dreams to gain access through let's just say through to the barrow doors. When the party reaches the entrance night, they will first encounter the 6 huggers. So the huggers, if I detail and show those here first of all, I probably could shift their stat block up because I've been dumping a stat block up in there for them. So huggers, I used a standard monster from the Dungeons and Crawl Classics main book, and then I just twisted it up a little bit to cover these creatures. So these are fast-running, lean-looking ancestor undead, are dusty old clothed, grey-skinned and black-eyed creatures. They have a strong, sickly smell of incense. There we go, so I've already done that. They move quickly to attack characters on grave ground when reached. There we go, on grave ground. And when reached, they stamp the floor hard. And when they reach a living person, let's put that in there. They stamp the floor hard twice with a foot. This is the curse of grave warmth. A reflex save is required, or you drop down into the grave with them. So essentially, they're dragging you down to the grave to then sort of sap your warmth, which is why they're called huggers, because they take you down there. So that was the first sort of encounter, which will happen outside the barrow before they go in. And then I can just do a brief overview of what happened last week in terms of the write-up. So the main chamber, let's go up, it's one step above the main chamber. So basically, and when they get through the entrance hall, which they do at night, the cairns of skulls are piled high in the initial chamber with racks of bones behind. Tattered banners are laid across the bones with a symbol of the Rocksmith family. The main pile of skulls in the east of the entrance hall and obscures the wall. To the west is a pool of water where the ground has collapsed over the ages, and beyond it is a slightly submerged is a stone door. To the west is a large stone door with a simple rusting iron ring. For a handle. So then the pool of water is still and covered in a dozen or so plate-sized dark grey lily pads. And that's where I rolled up the lilac spike lily by using the creature monster alphabet, and then this is sort of submerged. The plant creature resides in the dark waters, caves and areas where bodies might be left. Unwary walkers through a patch of water containing some will find themselves cut and sliced by the very sharp lily pads and weeds. Then I've said that drinking the water from the pool containing the lilac spike lily will result in poison damage. Fortitude save D10. Or I'm just going to say 1d6. And then say the poison damage contains the microscopic seeds of the lilac, and upon the death of the infected, they will slowly seed a new growing plant, with the body being drawn towards the nearest water source. Fine, so you don't want to deal with the lilac spike lily that's in there. And I've just popped down as well, because it's probably worth also showing the overview of the map for here too, before we get past those huggers. There's the map for the burial cairn. So that's that entranceway. There's that lilac spike lily is residing in the water there. There's a secret door behind a pile of bones there, and I need to draw that pile of bones onto this. This was from the one-page dungeon again. Just flip back to that to show you that, to give you the information again. On waterboo.itcho.i, one-page dungeon. If you do a search for that, you'll find that relatively easily. And I copied that out to create this as it's a quick way of doing it rather than drawing all this. I just grab it randomly and then I fill it up. The problem, which I mention every week, is that the one-page dungeon has the habit of skipping a couple of rooms for numbers. So it drags some numbers through, which results in this entranceway had no number on it. So when I counted through the numbers, it kind of mixes up and I lose the sequence. But I'm going to fix that later on. Just for now, I'm roughing it out, and I've just thrown a number in there for 7 for the entrance hall. So room 1 I have detailed. So we've done the entrance hall. It's got this flowery creature in there. Room 1 is a bit different. That's like the main burial chamber. And I didn't have any monsters in there. But I've got my read aloud block written up for that already. So this large crypt is lined with memorials to the Rocksmith family, and the floor is covered in inscriptions and scribed ancient spells. Unlike the rest of the bower, this floor is tiled in rock of the same black obsidian of the obelisk. So that's the obelisk again, the item in the center of the map there, the large dungeon which we're focusing on. And so it's made of that black obsidian, which is unusual for the area and the region. And they've obviously used it to tile this barrow as well, or this particular crypt and chamber. Toward the east of the end of the chamber is a large memorial stone covered in glowing blue glyphs. There are various small objects, including a shield mounted on the memorial stone. So at this point, I used the book from Goodman Games called the Dungeon Alphabet, and I rolled up various things on here to give me some flavour for the room. And one of them was that this stone memorial is covered in glyphs, but also was magnetic, so things are drawn towards it, which is why there's very small objects, including a shield, mounted on the memorial stone. For as far as the characters are concerned, when they go in, they've got strange things mounted on it, whereas in fact it's magnetic. So I've just taken from the rules here that you need a reflex save, otherwise you'll end up with items firing off their person and attaching themselves to that stone. And then there's a strength check because they're firmly fixed. So then I've said also the glyphs require a wizard to make an arcane check to understand the meaning. They describe a spell and ritual of death which is slowly killing Ida, the goddess, excuse me. She has survived 1,000 years resisting the spell. However, she now has weeks left before she expires, so it's not going to tell them that on there. One other thing I will say on the memorial stone, so again I'll do another kind of read aloud bit here. Just for the sake of ease of what I'm doing, I just type read aloud block, even though when I finally format this to go into something a little bit more professional looking than the Google Doc, I will probably change the read aloud. I won't say read aloud every time, I'll just put it in italics on there. So what I wanted to say was that on the surface, on the lower surface, I'll say, of the memorial stone is a carved image of the obelisk, the big cube-like dungeon, which is actually a temple that's been transferred into this realm somehow. But the unusual thing about this, so I'll say unusually, the obelisk is featured within, looks like a desert, oh no, just say a rolling dune landscape, and has a large structure with stairs leading up to its upper surface. So one of the features of the obelisk as it stands here at the moment is that it's really hard to get to. So I've featured a kind of hook in the adventure that the Howling Tower wizard has a method to allow the players to fly down on there on things called paper wings that are like magically imbued gliders made of paper. So it's not easy to get onto that top surface unless you're an expert climber because of the smooth obsidian rock that it's built of, and there's no way from the edge of the ravine to easily get across. However, in its original place, which is what I'm describing here, it clearly didn't have a problem for any of the patrons of the temple to get into that for the obelisk. So again, it's kind of a hint to them if they see it on there. It's obviously clear that it's not in the same landscape that it was before. That's if they come and investigate the this memorial in here. Of course, the players may not even come and bother with this scene, but the idea is that potentially the first hook through this adventure will be to investigate some problems in the in this burial area, just because there's been activity at night. So that's when they get in here, and this is like the further hook into the situation. So I'll just read that back so I can see how it's going. So on the surface of the memorial stones, carved image obelisk. Unusually, obelisk is featured within what looks like a rolling dune landscape and has a large structure with stairs leading up to its surface, which is what shall I say? Its upper surface, much unlike its current ravine location. So again, just to hook through. Then I've got some items on there: shield, chain shirt, short sword, silver, fine craftsmanship. I've said silver, that wouldn't be magnetic. I'll just say fine craftsmanship. A metal scroll case inscribed with runes, which you've read, describes a conclave of wizards called the Cackling Conclave. Within the scroll case are 4 spells: Colour Spray, Invoke Patron, but I've keyed that to Idonaea, the goddess that's dying in the obelisk. So the idea here is that this could be a way of calling and making her become a patron for them if they use that spell that's in there. I've got Charm Person and Comprehend Languages. So of course this is, hopefully there'll be a wizard in the party to make use of those, but if not, there's also a mace with a bone shaft and a head detailed with a handle of bound wire metal. And I've called that the Unseen Retribution. I rolled that up last week with an Intelligence 12, and this was in the main Dungeon Crawl Classics book in the section where you make swords, but obviously I was making a mace. So it's got vocal and telepathic communication with the wielder. Yennis Deadlock is a female cleric that on her death committed to continue to address the balance to fight against a family of dragons, and had her spirit bound into the bone mace as a relic, I'll say there. So when speaking, she can speak vocally as well, because we rolled that up on the table. She has a clear, defined, calm voice and will keep repeating the need to address the balance. So we also rolled up that if you kill someone that's chaotic with this mace, within a week you need to kill someone that's lawful. So you have to address the balance at all times between killing something with this. So and she'll compel the wielder to do that, to find someone of the opposite alignment. And then then I've said it's also Dragonbane. I just rolled that up randomly, which extend the critical threat about once against dragons. So what I've done since last week is I put a little bit of thought into something about the dragons, because we've said here fight against dragons, a family of them, and I've also said that it's a mace is to address the dragons along the mountain ranges, the Kobans to the north of Scarpsea. So basically, if we fire up the map again, Kobanark is the name of the Dwarven stronghold on the very north top of the map that you can see over on that top section. And it's the mountain range beyond, that extends beyond the map, that is where the dragon roost is. And get rid of it. So I haven't decided, I mean, really I'm going off slightly of a tangent with this, but I just thought, since it was sort of generating itself as a sort of streamer concept and consciousness as I was working through, I thought, why not write something up on the dragon? So I wrote some notes that I've dumped in at the top, but they don't make much sense. So I want to just refine that. And it's potentially outside of the scope of this adventure, and that it could be a hook on to something else, or it could be pulled in as well. So here it is. I wrote some notes, and some of it doesn't even make sense because I was like half asleep, I think, writing on my phone in a note application. So if I get that out of there, copy that down, and I'll just stick it down beside the mace as a note for myself, and just write it up just as something interesting. Also, I may well dive into one of the books to add some more flavour to it. So there it is, the mace, the bone shaft, a head detail with a handle of bound wire. It's called the Unseen Retribution, because the other thing about it was that it could see invisible, and I didn't write that on there. It could see invisible. So I've got that on the table while I was live last week, and knew that I could see invisible. So, but the wielder can't, but the mace can. So if I say Yennis can see invisible beings, just call it beings for now. However, she will have to communicate to the wielder where they are. So because she's vocal and she can speak, as a judge to this game, it's going to be a bit of fun to sort of have her whisper as a mace with the wielder to point out where they are. Can to that. So, however, she'll have to communicate with the wielder to point out where they are. So that's something that they may discover. She might not necessarily mention that straight away. Right, so the bit that I wanted to paste in here about these dragons, which I just thought up. And so I didn't spell the name right because I was, as I said, I was in bed and I just like tapped this down on my phone as a thought a couple of days ago. If I just match it to the right format so I know where I am in terms of text. So the dragon, the head of the dragon family was fighting before she died. I'll just put that in parentheses. I'll just put that in brackets. So is, and I've said Gagler Ganthorin. That's a bit of a mouthful. Maybe if I start with Gakla Gansthorn. Let's just go Thorn. And otherwise known as the Mighty Shadow. Here we go. She is an ancient forward horned, I was going to call it, mottled grey. So that was just a random name for a type of dragon. So I said a mostly black dragon with grey patches along the back and tail. A breath like, here we go, her breath weapon is like being sandblasted by a volcano's pyroclastic flow. So she's kind of earth and fire aligned kind of type of dragon, but it's like a hot ash breath. So I've said the hot ash breath is likely to encase the targets, the victims, in a permanent statuesque tomb. So I had in mind those the way that a volcano's pyroclastic flow can sort of seal you in its ash. Spell victims wrong. For some reason chat's gone hidden on me. Let's see if I can see it again. No, it's still there. So then I've said she's been mostly dormant on her hoard for 100 years, but her daughter, and I haven't got a name, I need to get a name for that, name required. But her daughter is getting restless and is now a 50-year-old. Wants to leave family roost and establish her own hoard. Is hoard? No, that's hoard as in creatures. That's hoard. So there she is. So that was just a little bit of a background that I thought of to the kind of dragon and the location. So if I say Gansthorn resides in a active volcano. And what did I call the mountains? I gave a shorter name of what the dwarves call it. There we go, the Kobans. And I could say something like her volcano home is called the Great Ash, or let's just call it the Ash Bowl. So that's a reasonable start. Don't know what other junk I was writing there. Is in an active volcano. And it's probably just worth also saying that for the plot here, so I'll just write plot note for now. Due to the strength, due to the power of Idonea's will as a goddess, as a god within the Obelix, her last few weeks of life have become connected to that of a dragon. If Idenea dies, it will be at the same moment as, and I shall copy and paste the name. I like long dragon names, but maybe she needs a shorter version just to make it a little bit easier on reading it back. Maybe she's just called the Gak or something. Well, that was one thing I was going to call it. I was going to call it like the Dark Cloud, or have like a common name that people maybe use for her. So yeah, so I'll write that in. Common name amongst the dwarves that covets her ancient horde is, let's call it Cloud Shadow or something, or Ash Cloud. Let's just call it something like that. It's a reasonable idea anyway, just to say that they have a common name because she's well known in the region, and they obviously have an uneasy peace with her. So I can say that. I'd say the uneasy peace between the folks of the mountain area will be broken when, copying it again, Gakla Thorn dies and her daughter on a rampage of grief to despoil region. Okay, that'll do. So I'm not going to do it this session, but because I've dived off about this dragon and the link to another location essentially, which I haven't even thought of yet, but I need to detail out this dragon roost and the volcano that she's in. But it's just fell into my mind over the last 2 days that I wanted some information about the dragon. I also like the idea of this sort of semi volcanic dragon that has like a hot ash breath that sort of blasts you like being sandblasted. And also I was thinking, you know, that volcanoes, when they erupt, they often have that electrical storm above there. So I was thinking maybe there could be some sort of electrical feature of her magic or something as well. And really just the fact that she's dying. I mean, that's another interesting plot twist, that her death is now aligned with that of Idenea, that's in the Obelix in the centre here. So if we've got Coburn up in the north there, and the range of mountains is called the Cobans, it's somewhere up north in that range where the dragon's roost is. So, and she's got a daughter, so there'll still be a fight, even if they don't get there to meet that dragon before she dies, or if they, you know, get to deal with Idenea in some way and find out that she's now aligned. Her death, her last heartbeats are now matching the heartbeat of the dragon, because they're the most significant magical energies, so to speak, in the region. There we go. So that's my just thought process going on. And I do remember now, I did want to mention, if Idenea dies, it will be at the same moment as the dragon. And in the last few weeks, their heartbeats, although separated by many leagues, many leagues, are now beating exactly at the same rate. Beating at the same rate. So there we have it. Done. That's detailed. Later on then, it gives me another step to do later, is to detail out a bit more about the dragon family. Why the spirit of this priest, which is in the mace, called Yennis Deadlock, in the Unseen Retribution mace, why she also wants to kill the dragon, I don't know, but she obviously wants to deal with that family, and I can link into that later. So back to more less esoteric links off to other creatures. There's the huggers again. We'll go back to the chambers in the barrow mound that I was working on. So I've detailed number 7. I've said in number 1 now that there is that drawing of the obelisk in the distance. And what I've decided to do, which I'm going to have to scan it at a later date, but I'm going to draw in this room 1. I've said that there is a, let me pop it up again. In the main burial chamber, there's the memorial stone with a few items on there. Otherwise, it's a pretty empty looking room. I haven't said there's any creatures in there, because I thought I'd leave it free of monsters just for the sake of having a calm exploration room. I like to sort of mix in the odd one in there, because the entrance hall was obviously already had a creature in there. But I've said at the bottom, in that other read aloud section I did, I've said that the obelisk is carved, there's a memorial stone, it's carved with the image of the obelisk, but it looks like it's in a different location in some sand dunes. I thought I'd just try and like sketch that out, and maybe just do that now. I'll be able to scan that later and throw in this rough sketch of it as well. So if I drop back to the desktop, I can then sort of zoom into my thoughts of trying to draw it. I'm not a great drawer, but obviously I'm sort of okay, because I drew that map out the other week. So I can generally get my gist across. I need to get that in focus. Get that finger in focus there so I can actually see what I'm doing. Finger is now in focus. That should now pop back up. So, right. So if we think about that obelisk, so it's obviously the basic structure that I can do first of all. I'll do it at a reasonable size. As a cube, just rough it out. So on the surface of it does have a sort of entrance way. But what I'm going to say is that it's obviously, draw it all out. I'm going to draw that there's a structure on the side. So I need to start again. First mistake. I need to draw the structure on the side so that it's able to be accessed. So if I give myself the general sort of gist of where it is, down to here, and now I need to draw some sort of structure that's enabling access. So stairs down, maybe steps down, yeah, and just sort of do them coming across, maybe getting broader because they're coming towards wherever the person's sort of viewing from here, and that way I can then do maybe signs of some struts underneath, or rock. Because wherever this obelisk originally was, it was accessible with the entrance walkway at the top here, which we've already sort of detailed down in the previous map. So then I was just going to make it look completely obvious that it's somewhere different, with these sort of sand dunes, that are tall sand dunes behind it, which I'm not going to do any attempt to sort of do any proper detail on in this. I'm just drawing it in. I'm not sure whether I wanted to make this sort of rock, but I've sort of, it's ended up being a kind of a rock cover to it there anyway. So there's the original location of the obelisk, not in a valley like we've got here. So if I fire up the previous drawing, so you can just compare and contrast, there's the obelisk right in the middle on its own. So somehow it's been transported here by great magics, but but what got left behind was whatever stairway or structure this was that provided access. So, and I've just roughed that out. So between now and next week, I just need to scan that in to show, because that will be a sort of a player handout to say, look, here's an interesting factoid. The structure, maybe there's even some other sort of mini structure things on there as well. Memorial braziers or something or other on the top of the oblex. So that's it, just as a general view, and obviously it's a really rough sketch, but that was the idea, that it was just showing that it was in some sand dunes rather than anything, rather than looking like it's still in the same location it is now. So when they view that, and if I sketch that a bit better to do a final copy of it, they'll be able to see that, oh, this looks like something completely different than what it was before. If anything, actually, from looking at this, I think I've probably made it look a bit smaller than it really is. I've lost the fact that it's quite a large structure, really. That's what you get when you're just doing a quick sketch. Oh, the other thing to mention is that the surface, which we've said before in one of the original videos that I did, is that there were sort of primitive looking guttering along the top, which allowed the water to run down and down into the stairways along the edge of the stairs. So any rain that did fall on the top, it's a natural rain capturing structure. So there it is, oblex, and I'll just write oblex on the top there so I know where I am when I reference this and scan it in. So yeah, by next session that I do, I will throw that oblex into the mix so that they can see that, oh right, this is what it looked like before it was in this location. So head back here. So there we go, yes, so it looks like a rolling dune landscape. There's a large structure with stairs leading up to the upper surface, much like its current ravine. Much unlike its current ravine location, it stands alone in the landscape. That'll do. In the dunes. So that's that room now done. So room 1 done. We need to now look down and do another room, which means I can then jump to the books and dig something else. In fact, I'm going to use the Cthulhu book as well, because I'm very keen to give that a go. So we've got room 6. So we should call this, well, maybe what can we call that as far as a room goes? But let's have a look. So we roll up on the table and see. So room 6, it has some sort of water feature in there, so I'll probably need to roll that up. So I'll just start a new section for room 6, and I think we could do some kind of interesting thing in here. I've got some ideas for maybe something else linked to the oblex. So we've got the burial chamber and a read aloud block, so I'll just rip that off there so I can repeat it for room 6. It's like I've tapped two keys here. Well, separated by many leagues. Managed to paste that in somehow. Right, so huggers, we've done those before. Paste in the next one. I'll call this room 6. I haven't got a name for it yet, but I'm going to roll that in Michael Curtis's book and see what I come up with. And obviously I've got nothing yet in the read aloud block. So let's flip to the desktop, zoom back out here again so we can see what's going on, and I shall get the dungeon alphabet. Here it is. So dungeon alphabet. Now I've actually carefully labelled my sections. I've got hallways, doors, rooms and relics. Let's have a look at that. I feel almost organised this time, apart from the dice.
You will cut off your legs, your arms, and your head.
So let's roll straight on this table. So there's 20 options on this rooms table. So that means rolling a d20. 14. So a rotating room. Room spins unnoticed when door closes, allowing access to another dungeon area and possibly confusing mapping attempts. I think that's maybe a bit too advanced for a little barrow on the side of this village. I know it sounds interesting, but let's try something else. 16. Stasis room. Any living creature in this room enters a state of stasis when the door is sealed. The creature no longer requires food, drink, or ages. Stasis can only be ended by opening the door from the outside. So there could be something in there that's been in there then for a long time, and maybe this magic, like I'd mentioned, that Idin is a great goddess and she's dying. Maybe her magic has somehow imbued this room as part of this whole situation what we're going through. And there's something there in stasis, so someone or something will be left behind. So I quite like that. It's quite interesting. I'll just write stasis room down. So that's an initial idea for it. So let's also then say that there's some sort of relic in there as well. Or let's also find out the original purpose for the room. So we'll roll on this table here, which is a D100. $85, so that means it's of a utility sub table 1. Let's check that out.
Infidel defilers shall all drown in lakes of blood.
11, sub table 1. Where was I looking? Sub table I, maybe. Yeah, and I've just rolled. Oh no, I've rolled on the D100 again. It's actually, I need to roll a D12. So let's get a D12 out there. 4. It was a dining room. Maybe not in a tomb, but maybe meeting chamber. I'm going to roll just randomly again. I'm going to roll on D12 and subtable G, religious rooms. Let's go for that. 5. It's a crypt. One more, because we had a crypt already. So 9. A robing room. Okay, so this would be where some sort of preparation. I'm going to say rather than robing, it's some sort of preparation. Dead. Embalming room or something like that, maybe. That'll work. So, or at least where in this local religion, whatever, they dress the dead here. So, preparation room of sorts. That'll do. Then, let's also have a look at putting a relic or something in there too, maybe. 30 random relics from previous adventurers. Let's do that. It's a D30. Always like to have an opportunity to roll on D30. So let's go for it. 25. So we have got a battered steel helmet, inverted and affixed to a stem of bone, encrusted with blood. The helmet is fashioned into a ceremonial goblet used by a dark cult and then lost. Quite like that. So old, battered, rusty helmet. Helmet used for ceremonially drinking of blood. So it will have some dried, encrusted blood in it. But what about whatever it is that's in stasis in here? So I need to have a think about that. So I'm going to flip to the monster alphabet, I think, to roll randomly on there. Just skipping through here randomly, just to have a look again. So, yes. So there is a door, I think, on that room as well. So I will just roll its other door as well. In fact, I'll roll a couple of doors just to get myself primed. So let's have a look on this one to give it a door of a certain kind. So I've got a 16 on the D20. Strange material, glass, force, bone, solid fire. Quite like that. I'm going to say that the doorway on here is solid bone as well. Or both doors, if it's got 2. I think it may have 2. So no, I think it's just got 1. So the other door is solid bone. When I say solid bone, I think I'll say it's made of bound together, wire bound skulls and bones. What kind of creature? I can hear the player characters asking. So maybe we'll say that they're unusual bones as well. That will also maybe be a hint at some other future unusualness in terms of the ultranulls that reside in this valley. So now get the dungeon alphabet. And I need to find some random creatures, so let's have a look. Sorry, not dungeon alphabet, monster alphabet. So maybe it's a minion of some kind. So I'm just having a look through to see what I may fancy. I'll tell you what would be good if it was some sort of cultist. So I'm going to get the Cthulhu alphabet. So yeah, let's fire that up for the first time. I think this has minions. In fact, I know it's got minions, but I didn't actually label the minion section, but I should find that pretty quickly. So, cultists, that's what I'm looking for, 10. So here are the cultist section. I love the way they've used the black in this book. They've done it quite often where they've put a lot of black on the page and reversed, so you get the negative image, and it's just really good. So well worth dashing out to get this book if you can. Actually, I should put that keyboard out of the way. I know what I'm doing here is I'm pressing the keys on those buttons while I'm trying to read the book. So okay, let's have a look what these creatures, or this creature, is in terms of a cultist. So I was going to say, I'm going to call it human. I'm going to make it quite unusual in this stasis that it's stuck in here. And let's just see what they say and recommend that you go through. So for a cultist, roll 20 on A and then again on B to form the cult's name. Configuring the cult's name usually takes 2 forms. So we'll give it a cult name. So it's got 40. I think I've got a D40. So I'm just going to roll a D30. So 25, as part of the madness of the Cthulhu book, I should think. Oh, so light, 18, light majesty. Okay, not fantasy enough, nearly there. So let's go again, 25. Oh, keep rolling the lights. I'm going to roll the same thing. 13, that's a nice unlucky number. Oh, forgotten. That sounds much better. So I've got forgotten over here. And then I'll go on table B for the Forgotten Eye. That feels a lot better as a cult that this person is a member of, or the leader of, stuck within Stasis in here. You know, why has he been thrown in here and locked in? Okay, the Forgotten Eye. And I was thinking that maybe we could give him some abilities, because it says here cult leaders. If he's the cult leader, it says 1d6 no special abilities, 2 to 5 1, 6 2 abilities. Well, let's just assume he's got 1 ability, because I don't want to make it 2. Oh, why not? Let's roll a d6 and ignore the roll of 1. Just let it go. Let's see. Oh, he rolls a 1. Needs to roll again. 2. Okay, so he has got 1 ability. Then I'll roll a d20. 16. And that means he's got teleportation. Okay, but not while he's in the stasis room. Okay, so can teleport, but not in the room. Okay, so just taking that down, I'll need to transfer that over. And then you've got a cult personality. So I like the idea of arrogance here. So even though he's been stuck in here for maybe centuries, I'm going to say that he's got a lot of arrogance and think he's some kind of ruler. So I think now, in terms of the adventure, this character that's stuck in here, that's a cult leader, he set up an initial cult to worship Idonaea when she arrived in this realm in the Obelix when it had first appeared, and gained her favour and gained a lot of power from that, which is why he's got this teleporting. But something went wrong. I haven't quite worked out what yet, but obviously maybe he betrayed her, which is why she started to die. That's it. He betrayed her. So he betrayed Idonaea and got dumped in here, either by her or by the villagers that thought we've had enough of this arrogant cultist or what have you. So the cult of the Forgotten Eye. So we probably need to put some carved eyes somewhere on a wall as well, just to sort of preempt that. And he can teleport, but not while he's stuck in the room. So that's going to be very interesting. Probably somehow asked to be removed. Okay. So I may also put a trap on the other exit door here. So they're, interesting enough, I say it's probably just worth mentioning this actually. So if I fire up my big screen, So essentially what I want to do here is just mention that in this book, the Cthulhu alphabet, obviously it's great for horror fantasy type settings, so that's what Cthulhu is, but there's so much in here. Actually, I'd say even more so than the dungeon and the monster alphabet. A lot of the sections in here have really lengthy, like this section here, where you're on this Mask of Nyarlathotep, which I can never say, Nyarlathotep, something like that. I tell you what, if I put the echo on, I'll probably be able to say that a bit, and I'll put some atmosphere. Here we go. The Masks of Nyarlathotep. Probably totally failed to say that appropriately. But yes, as I was saying, there's a lot more detail in here in terms of blocks of text that describe scenarios. Like the Miskatonic University section here is epic. There's a whole load of sections on who might introduce you to these. And it's kind of, this sort of bit of the book is very much set in the realms of, you know, modern-ish, maybe 1920s up to modern style, with the sort of way the cultists and feel of the setting goes. But then there's a section on madness, obviously the classic madness. But it's also got some good stuff on some really quirky things, like there's this Vorish, which I really like, which fits in any fantasy setting. So if I dive down onto this, actually before I do dive down, don't forget on the screen on the bottom left there, DCC Days Online. It's a convention, online only convention happening next weekend, so on the 11th, from Thursday the 11th to the 14th, and it's a worldwide online gaming stream. I'm doing an adventure there, but I think mine is fully booked now. It reminds me I need to get an email out to the members of that game so they know where to sign up and get characters, and I need to create the pre-made characters too. It's level 4. I'm doing the what's it, the Iron Skull? I can't remember what it's called. 13th Skull, and I'm doing it on June the 13th, sort of double up the unluck in a kind of Cthulhu way, so probably have all sorts of technical issues. Now I'm probably tempting fate, or tempting the fates. Yes, so don't forget DCC Days Online. There's loads of slots left in games on there, so have a look. There's great seminars as well, and it's all done, you know, the host that you join up with will set up either Zoom or Roll20 or whatever they use to do one of the adventures. And it's not all Dungeon Crawl Classics as well. There's other games going on. So that's that done. So a mini plug done there.
Infidel defilers.
So as I was,
all drown in lakes of blood.
Make sure that's in focus. Technical moment. Now look at that. Suddenly, you know when something's in focus, it goes dark. I'll tell you what, when I first got my glasses, so I was probably in my 20s now, late 40s, I first got my glasses, and this first thing that the optician said to me is said that you'll feel like you can see a higher contrast. And that surprised me, because whenever you think about your eyesight going and fading away, you think of things just getting blurry. You don't think of things losing their sort of black-white contrast. But that was the weirdest, strange thing when I first stuck the glasses on my head in my late 20s, and I looked down and went, hang on, this looks like black and white again. It's no longer this sort of brown or whatever it was. Anyway, that was aside the point. What I wanted to say is that some of the stuff in this Cthulhu alphabet is great for any fantasy setting. Like this stuff is the Vorish sign, and it's essentially where people do strange hand symbols, and they can create spell effects with it. And I just thought that would be a quirky, great thing to introduce to maybe even this setting that I'm doing, where the wizard in that Howling Tower, which I again just bring it up so you can see where it is, the Howling Tower in this region over on the top left of that map there. That is, there's a wizard in there, and I thought maybe he has this Vorish sign, so he could maybe even teach one of the wizards in the party. And it goes on for at length about all the different effects they can do. So basically they twist their hand into a certain shape, and they're allowed to do, you know, just essentially spell-like effects. So Monster Ward, the wizard can fend off most mythos creatures for as long as he holds the sign. The incantation does not deflect attacks made by mythos creature, but it's enough to irritate the creature that is motivated to move away and harass someone else. So these kind of things would be interesting. You could easily drop that into a fantasy setting and have a wizard that's learnt these. You could say, you know, you could put some limits on it to say, oh, you can only use it once or twice a day or something, but when you do that symbol, a certain kind of monster, maybe undead, no longer want to track you down. And then at the back here, of course, classic for Cthulhu mythos is also the zombies as well. And again, you have a sort of modern feel to it here. But there's some really nice unpredictable undead continued here on this table. Some really nice little descriptions of some here, like a cross species, so its infection can infect other things around it, so it could jump to birds of prey or canines, and zombie-fed birds of prey and canines are driven by zombie instinct and attack living prey. So you could do all sorts of quirky things by mixing in some of this good stuff into the Dungeon Crawl Classics fantasy setting as well. You don't have to do it. And also, I mean, just generally as an observation, take that glare off there somehow, but as an observation, as a book, it doesn't have generally stats or anything in there. There's tables to roll on, but it's system agnostic, independent, whatever you want to say. It doesn't require any particular system. You could use it with a Cthulhu game. You could use it with any setting you like. So trap, that's what I was going to do. Let's do a trap, and I was going to use a trap in here, and as long as it wasn't a modern one where it has a rifle firing off or something. I thought that's what would be on that bone structured door, that they would be trapped. So yeah, like here, grenades, I'll have to ignore the grenades result, but I thought it's a door trap, so let's roll a d6 on the door trap table down here. So a 6. So okay, so it's got a mystic glyph. An invisible ward has been placed on the door. When the door is open, an arc of lightning bursts from the ward to strike the person opening the door and burns the ward into the door. Okay, so it has once the door's open, it blasts the person and puts a glyph into there. So door, lightning blast. And as I was saying already, all of these books are like this. They just give you that trigger as an idea. You don't need to necessarily. You're not going to read this off, and it's not going to say does 1d10 damage in D&D 5e or does 1d6 damage if you're playing Classic Cthulhu by the old Chaosium version or something. You just have to sort of take it from there and then decide what you want to do with it. So in this instance, I'm going to need to write up the kind of damage that does from that door in that room. So the cultist, we've got him in that room. We know it's stasis, so he's as alive as he ever was when he was put in there and locked in. He can teleport. He's from a cult called the Forgotten Eye, and he betrayed Idonaea at some time as a goddess, so that's why he's been stuck in here, either by the local villagers. They thought of throw him in this magical room, or he's just been dumped in there by the goddess herself. So let's have a flip back to the screen and have a look at what we're going to do on the Raspberry desktop to write that up. So I'll write it up, and then I'm going to jump, and then I'm going to do a stat block or something for him as well. So I've got another about 30 minutes left, so I think I'll be able to get this room done in that time. So, but first of all, we said it was the what do you say? It's a call it a chamber. Call it the dead waiting chamber. And then say this room. So this is more of a DM sort of bit here, just a judge bit. This room is under magical stasis. In the center is a small sitting cross-legged beside it. So I can say, so it's in stasis, is under magical unchanging stasis. The entire room is encased in black tiles. Obsidian. And I can say, I didn't finish that, sitting cross-legged beside the pool. is a black cloaked person. So I haven't got a name for this person, so let's get a name. So we know that the god, that they're from the cult of the Forgotten Eye, but we'll just come up with a name. So I'll roll on my table. So this is just a D100 table that I roll on to fire up a name. So why not make it I could make it a female. It doesn't have to be a male. Let's make that random. So 1 to 3 it's male, and 4 to 6 it's female. So it's a female. So I'll roll on the table for the name. 41. So 41 is conveniently underneath my head down there. So 41, Myra is the first name. Sorry, that's so tiny. It's tiny for me as well. I could zoom into it, but then I have to like faff around, so I can just about read it off there. And then a surname for Myra, 75. So that's a bit further up. So 75 is here. Myra Gonora. Oh no, surname's Meagles. Myra Meagles. Myra Meagles. Okay. I'm going to take that. Myra Meagles. The priestess, or the cult leader of the Forgotten Eye. Back to the book. A person. And I shall say, this is Myra Meagles. It was placed here over 50 years ago. Over a century ago. Has been locked in stasis without who was placed here over a century ago, has been locked in stasis without the need of sustenance. Let's get that. Substance. Still spelled it wrong. So the entire is encased in black tiles made of the obelisks which gleam as if polished and new. The walls have torchlights, sconces. Spell that wrong. So the walls have torch sconces and with wooden torches that burn brightly as if just lit. So again, they're under the same stasis as Myra Meagles. And just a bit more detail. So Myra, leader of a cult called the Forgotten Eye, that worshipped the goddess when she first arrived. Wow. She fell out, I'll just say, she fell out of favour. And was thrown into stasis in this room and forgotten about. That's why it's the Forgotten Eye, because she's been forgotten about. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, forgotten. So I need a stat block for her. I know she can teleport. I know the door has lightning. So right, read aloud block then. Now I've just sort of written up my ideas, which does need editing as well. I could just say for when the players enter the room, here's them coming into the room from room 7 into room 6. And there's one other doorway out of here, room 4. So I can say opening the door. Open the door reveals a bright room. Black shiny tiles from floor to ceiling. In the centre is a cowled figure wearing a simple black robe. Cross-legged and staring into water pool. The water looks crystal clear. Torchlight. To the north is one visible exit via a door that looks to be made of bone. So we now also need to detail that the doorway. So scroll down a bit so you can see what's going on. So the door, the bone door. Various human is not locked but is trapped. A person walks through the door a bolt of lightning will strike them. At the same time, burn a rune onto a skull in the door. And I'm going to say, to make it a little bit freaky, I'm going to say if a player studies the burn mark, they can see their own name written in arcane script at the centre of the burn of the rune. So let's call it a sigil. At the centre of the sigil. So trap detection to detect the trap on the door is a DC. Because it's magical, maybe it's like a rune that's written on there that shows. So I'm going to say that it's going to be a DC 16 to find that there's some kind of trigger mark written in magic script on there or something along those lines. So around the door, it's a DC 16. However, to disable it, oh no, that's a disable as well. So it'll be maybe removing one of the bones. So it is a DC 16. To detect the trap on the door, it's a DC 16. Oh no, let's say, yeah, DC 16 and removing a single magical skull lodged into the door will prevent the lightning strike. Prevent. So there we go. So motivation of the person on the floor is probably to get out, but she's also very, as we wrote down, she's very arrogant too. and betrayed Idenea. So maybe she wants to see Idenea dead now, which maybe will be one of her motivations to say, I need your help to get out and deal with Idenea, and she becomes part of the party. Or maybe they just fight her and don't like her because she's going to be like an evil person, but she's only going to look about 25, even though she's been in here forever, stuck in stasis. And we've called her, we've got a name for her as well, haven't we? Oh yeah, Myra Meagles. Right. So I think now I've got about another 15 minutes. So I'm going to do like a stat block for Myra Meagles. I'm going to have a look into the main DCC RPG book, and I'm going to pull up the section on humans to find like a wizard or something for that character as a cult leader. So if I flip to the desktop again, get rid of I can't get this out of my hands. Really like this Cthulhu alphabet. It's slowly creeping into my mind. It creeps into my mind as I sleep at night. Something like that. Anyway, so let's get the fat tome that is Dungeon Crawl Classics. And I'm so organised. Men, look at that. I can go straight there. And women, of course. Men. So down here at the back, they have a nice little section on basically NPCs based on different character classes. And they have friars, bandits, acolytes, kings, and some stats that are kind of nice and easy to just whip out. So they've got witch there, which I could use. I know there's also a wizard. Where did I see? Sage. Studying sage, maybe she's a sage. Magician, they've got a magician. Powers to create distraction and illusion, and then you'd roll up. And they can also do like a blast, which I really like, because I'm always thinking about that in my games when I'm doing anything like a D&D game as well. That you always think, I want an NPC, but I don't want to like work for hours thinking about all the spells they've got very accurately. And they've overcome that in this nice format of the men and magicians in here, in the sense that it just says, here we go. In addition, up to 3 times a day, a magician can throw a harmful spell that causes 2d4 damage. So I guess it's like a magic missile, but it's just a nice, quick and easy way to go. I need a player character, an NPC, and I'll just get that one because it has a damage output that I can fire up straight away without thinking about a dozen spells that I might need to use. So that could be her, although she could be a little bit more powerful. Acolyte, novice clergy in the church, or maybe even I can take friar, because it gets a harmful spell 3 times a day, and a cudgel, which is a little bit more in line with a cultist, isn't it? Sort of a cudgel or some kind of like thumping stick that they use to bring their cultists in line. I'm going to use the friar stats, and I'm going to pop them in. So again, it can be done 3 times a day. It can use a religious symbol to turn away foes. So she can probably do that to turn away enemies of Idenea or something. Maybe undead? Yeah, well, it's foes. That's what you do in Dungeon Crawl Classics anyway. It's kind of whatever type of cleric you pick, you have kind of an opponent or a set of enemies that could be undead, but it could be that you're a cleric of a certain god that hates lizard folk or hates some other kind of group of people. So you can actually turn them, and that's one of the sort of main sections of, or the main interesting things of Dungeon Crawl Classics, is that it hasn't just limited a cleric to being able to turn undead. So yeah, a little bit of game information for you there. So I'm going to flip back, and I'm just going to use a stat block to write her up, and then I'm going to give her sort of a level of strength and etc. So let's go into the Raspberry, and that'll be the last thing I do. I've got 10 minutes left. So what I tend to do is grab one of the stat blocks that I've already got, which is one here. You can see it's a huge stat block, but it's only for the sake of writing these templates up as I work through. I just put it in the big table. Whoops, I've just selected everything in the entire document with a classic mouse slip. There's a nice small stat block. I'll take the Lilac Spike Lily, the monster that was a lily pad that can stick a spike into you as you walk through the water. That should let me do a Control-C and a Control-V for copy. Get the keyboard up onto the table, and then go down to this room that we're working on. a lot of that needs tidying up. I can see there, like features of that mace and things. I should put like a table of maybe the weapons that are found there and put some information about that mace. I could probably draw that as well, although I won't be doing that today. So there's the cowled figure. So we need her stat block below here, and there she is. So this is Myra Myra Meagles. So now I'm reading off the Friar. So straight away they have initiative of 0. So I'm going to make her a bit more lithe. I'm going to say that she's got initiative of a +1. Why is it not appearing in there though? Seems to be going over the edge. I think I've basically not deleted the old bit on there. Having a computer failure here. +1. Removes the keyboard, puts it back in, see if that's had any effect. And it does. I must have pressed an unusual key on my keyboard. So I'll put it maybe into scroll lock or something like that. So alignment, I'm going to say chaotic. Action die, I'm going to give her the 1d20 action die, which means she uses a d20 to attack or do other actions. Armor class 13, that's already in there as a 13. Hit dice 3d8. So because she's a bit older and a bit more interesting, I could put a fixed stat in there, but I haven't. I'll just put it in there. And her movement is going to be the classic 30 for a human. But of course she's got teleport, as we know when we rolled that up. So her attack is going to be a cudgel that she's got. So I'll keep quite a few things similar, which is +3, and it's 1d4 +1. And it's just a cudgel. And she hasn't got sharp leaves like the other thing. Just get rid of, I selected everything for me there. I just wanted what was in the table, but I'll delete that away. So cudgel 1d4 +1, or harmful spell. So I'll just say harm spell, which is going to be each fighter can cast 3 harmful spells a day, each which causes 1d8 +2 damage at a range of 100 foot. So spell 1d8 +2. So I'll just say sort of special over here. So harmful spell times 3 per day for 1d8 damage. And she can also turn. So I was going to say, yeah, I'm thinking it probably would be undead that she can do 3 times a day. She can turn foes. 1/3 per day, turn foes. I'll just say undead. So she could be useful to befriend, even though she is both chaotic and a bit unhinged. So I could say I may actually use the Cthulhu alphabet to find her madness, because she's been stuck in stasis in here for a long time. So I'll start with a bit of an intro for her, just to sort of set the scene on what this character is. So Myra has been locked in stasis in this chamber for, let's say, nearly 100 years. And her cult, which conveniently came up as the Cult of the Forgotten Eye, and her cult has long been forgotten along with her. She was originally an acolyte of, oops, lots of spelling there, of Idenea, and before betraying her, started a long spiral towards death for Idenea. So basically she caused the start of Idenea's death, so we can work out why that is as they explore the obelisk later on. So has been in this chamber. She originally used an account of Idenea before betraying her, which triggered a long spiral towards death for Idenea. So other specials that she's got are teleport, and I'll say twice per day. Teleport twice per day, but not while locked within the room of stasis. And I'll just say Myra can only exit this room if invited to. So she's got some sort of curse on her that's leaving her stuck in here, and she needs to be invited to be able to get out. So either they're going to fight with her or they're going to take pity on her or something. But her personality, which we found out by looking in the Cthulhu alphabet, her personality is very arrogant. So Myra is extremely arrogant. I've got her arrogance now. I know where that's come from. And I'll say she wanted to replace Idenea as a goddess. And despite her ritual failing, she did manage to mortally wound the god. Now she wants out. Now she wants to return to make another attempt. So there she is. So this is what after the obelisk arrived in this realm, it was Myra followed her, and obviously there was a cult. This was hundreds of years ago that originally these cults would have been wound the goddess. But eventually she betrayed her, thought, you know, I can step up and to be a goddess, incredibly arrogant at the head of her cult of the Forgotten Eye. And that failed, but in the process she did mortally wound Idenea, who's been slowly dying over the last century or so. And what other stuff would I say? The door's got lightning on it. I'm going to just before we finish up, even though I've only got like a minute left, I'm just going to roll on the Cthulhu alphabet madness for this character Myra, because I just want to see how crazy she's gone, been stuck in stasis for like 100 years or so. So let's go back to the desktop and get the keyboard out of the way. I won't write this up, but it'll be the final thing I do, which is just to find out what madness she's got. So if I look under M for madness, page 44 in this excellent new book that only arrived for me this week on my birthday, actually. So actually, one of these things I ordered it on eBay in the UK, but it took a couple of weeks to arrive, and it did say from outside the UK, so I wasn't sure quite where it was coming from. But it landed right on my birthday in the middle of this week, so just in time to do this. So let's have a look. Madness, 7 monstrous madnesses. So this is going to be interesting because I'll have to roleplay these as a dungeon master role-playing this non-player character. She has been stuck in here a long time, and as I said earlier, there's no harm in using the Cthulhu alphabet book for fantasy adventures as well, because there's madness in fantasy adventures. They've got traps in here, zombies, and all sorts of other goodies that you can use in a normal traditional fantasy. So there's a D7 on 7 monstrous things here. It says, please note rough charts suggest how secrets can be learned from contact with mythos. So she's been contacted with a god in here. So although it's not mythos Cthulhu sense, she may have some other source of knowledge. She will have a source of knowledge, won't she? So we'll worry about that later. Let's just roll the madness and see where we go. So we've got a subtable on a mania as well as the main one. And again, fortunately, because of the fantastic quirky dice that you can get with funky dice with Goodman Games, I do have a D7 for that table. So a 4. Let's have a look. Mania. The character loses the ability to regulate their emotions, swinging from gaiety to anger to sadness with no warning. To regain control, the character must make a will save of DC 15 minus thing. So this is character. Character should roll 1d6 on the mania subtable when in the grips of mania. So let's see, when maybe she's quite calm at the moment when they first meet her, but occasionally she'll go crazy. And we've got the subtable. Current mood. I'm going to take anger. I rolled a 4, but I'm going to take 3, which is anger. So the character's consumed with irrational rage at everything. Minor irritations become a catalyst for explosions of fury. When in the grips of anger, attack rolls are at +1, but intelligence rolls are -1. So I will write that up in the next week and be able to share that detail. But she gets angry and she's got mania from being locked in a stasis in here for so long. Okay, so switch back out to here and just say thank you very much for viewing this week's session. I think I'm quite happy with what I've put in there because I enjoy this sort of creative process. I haven't got enough momentum through that dungeon, but that is another room done. I've done the character in there, I've done the unusual circumstances, I've rolled in the book to see that the room had a stasis on it. I've put a door on there as well, which has a trap on it, which has slight quirky interest to the trap. And I've also extended the background for that mace with the fact it was a dragon bane, and I've now named the dragon family that the original wielder of that mace was intending to slay to address some sort of ancient balance. So it's all sort of coming into place, and that's all because I've been using these books really to sort of stimulate my own imagination and then sort of bolting on my sort of stream of consciousness onto the top of that to sort of explore where it goes. Of course, this is a rough draft process. What might happen in the end is that if I manage to get something together that I want to publish, I may rip out completely that whole section on the dragon stuff and say, well, that'll go into another book. It's just too much detail. But I like to put the detail in and then I can sort of carve it back and pare it back later on. So great. Thanks for listening in. Don't forget the DCC Online, which is next week, 2020 on the June 11th to the 14th. If you do a search on the Goodman Games website, you'll find all the details about how to get tickets for that. So thanks for listening in and goodbye. I shall now stop the stream. Cheers.